Area and perimeter for triangles and parallelograms. So on your formula sheet, you don't have to memorize these. You got parallelogram right here, base times height. Triangle is right here, 1/2 base times height. That's why I'm doing these together, because they're very similar. Now this is kind of a waste of space, but just in case you forget on the GED, they've got perimeter of a triangle, and it just tells you to add the first side plus the second side plus the third side. If you remember what perimeter is, you don't really need that formula. There's not a perimeter for parallelogram because you just add all four sides together. So, triangle. You could get a right triangle. Let's say this is 3, 4, 5. If you get a right triangle, first let's go over perimeter because that's pretty easy. So perimeter, add these sides together. 5 plus 4 is 9, plus another 3 is 12. Area is a little bit more complicated. So our formula was 1/2 BH. Lowercase always stands for the length of the base. H stands for the length of the height. It doesn't matter which one you pick for the base and which one you pick for the height on right triangles. Now I'll show you it does matter for all other triangles here in a second. What matters is the right angle. So the right angle is always going to tell you what the base and the height is. So you can pick 3 and 4 or 4 and 3. It doesn't matter which one. So 1/2 times 3 times 4. I picked 3 for the base and 4 for the height. You can switch them around. So on your calculator, you're going to hit the fraction key. It's got an N over a D. It's in the middle of your gray buttons. It looks like that. When you hit that, fraction key is going to appear, or a fraction symbol is going to appear on your calculator. You're going to hit the 1 key, and it's going to put a 1 on top. Then you're going to have to hit the down key, which is in your arrow keys. They're on the far right-hand side of your calculator. There's 4 of them, up, down, left, and right. So down will take you down to the bottom of the fraction. Then you hit the 2 key. Then you have to hit the over key. By over, I mean over to the right. If you don't hit that over key, it's going to put everything on the bottom of the fraction along with the 2. So you've got to hit over to get out beside the fraction. Then you can hit multiply 3, multiply 4, enter. And you should get an answer of 6, which would be 6 inches squared because we're talking about area. Now, there is an easier way to do this sometimes. If you've got whole numbers here, if you've seen another video, you've seen me say if everything is multiplied, I mean if you don't have any division or adding or subtracting, it's multiply, multiply, multiply. You can multiply in any order that you want. So you can actually say, what's half of 4? Well, half of 4 is 2. 2 times 3 is 6. So that's just a quick way to do it without having to punch in all this on your calculator. But if you don't have an easy number to take half of, you probably have to do this if you can't do it in your head. Now, you can also have an acute triangle. Now, this is different than this because on this you had the right angle. The 2 sides made the right angle. You don't have any right angles on this. Everything is acute, which means it's less than 90 degrees. So what you look for is a dotted line and a right angle. What that tells you is that this has to be the base because this side makes a right angle with the dotted line. The dotted line usually signifies the height. So let's say it's 10 inches tall and 8 inches wide. Now, I'm going to skip perimeter because that should be easy by now. We're just going to go straight to area. So when they're asking area and they give you this measurement right here and this measurement right here, you don't need those. It's extra information. They're trying to trick you. So they might give you 4 numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they expect you to know that you only need 2 of them. You only need the base and the height for area. If you were doing perimeter, you would need those 2 numbers, but you're not doing perimeter, you're doing area. So the base is 8, the height is 10. So you can punch this on the calculator for practice, but I know that half of 8 is 4. 4 times 10 is 40 inches squared. The other triangle that you can get is called an obtuse triangle. If you've studied your triangles at all, you know that that means that it has one angle that is more than 90 degrees. Now there's 2 ways that they can signify the height on this. I've seen it where they draw a dotted line on the outside of the triangle and then a dotted line meeting the bottom of the triangle, and then they'll draw a right angle right here. And that tells you that this dotted line is the height. And then you have to get the base, which is this one over here. This line doesn't matter. This line, the only reason it's there, this dotted line, is to tell you that this line continues on with this line. It's the same line. So that it tells you that this line forms a right angle with this dotted line, which is the height. They could also come out here like this, do something like that, if I drew it long enough, and say 6 centimeters. Or they could just put it in word form and say the height of the triangle is 6 centimeters. Either way, you're only going to use that number and that number. So 1/2 times the base times the height. So half of 12 is 6. 6 times 6 is 36 centimeters squared. Oops, don't need 2 equals. Moving on to parallelograms. So if you studied parallelograms, you know that a parallelogram is a 4-sided shape, which makes it a quadrilateral. The opposite sides are parallel. That's why it's called a parallelogram. Squares and rectangles are also parallelograms, but they have an additional requirement, meaning they have 90-degree angles. These shapes do not have to have 90-degree angles, so that's why we call them parallelograms. So it means that side's parallel with that side, and the bottom is parallel with the top. So perimeter, same thing. And with a parallelogram, it's like a rectangle. If this side is, say, 15 feet, then this side's going to be 15 feet. If this side is 8 feet, then this side is going to be 8 feet. They have to be the same. So perimeter, you would add for these 4 sides together. Actually on the calculator, 15 and 15 is 30. 8 and 8 is 16. 30 and 16 is 46 feet. Now, if they want the area, you have to do BH, which is the base times the height. Now, just like with the triangles, you cannot use this side and this side for the base and the height because they don't form a right angle. If this was a rectangle, you would use this side and this side, but it's not a rectangle. Just like a triangle like this doesn't have a right angle in it, so we have to make a right angle out to the side. In a parallelogram, they're going to give you the right angle inside, like that, or it could be drawn over here, just as easily, or they could just draw it in the middle. It doesn't matter where they draw it. So this tells me that this side has to be the base, which is 15. But they have to give me this side. So let's say that's 6 feet. So when you're doing area, you do not use the 8, just like on the triangle that we did before. When we're doing the area of the triangle, we do not use the 5. You never use the slanted side when you're finding area. So since this is a slanted side, we don't use it. So what you're going to use is 15 and 6. Punch that in the calculator. I think that's 90. Since it's area, it's going to be feet squared or square feet. Doesn't matter which way you say it. So you have to be able to pick out the right numbers for the right problem. They can give you all 5 of these numbers, and they might ask you for perimeter, and they might ask you for area, or they could ask you for both. I've seen on the GED where the first problem has this picture, and it has something to do with the perimeter, and then once you finish that, you hit next. It has the exact same picture or figure, and then the next problem has something to do with area. So you might have 2 different things with the same problem. So if you printed these worksheets out, I'm going to do a couple of these just for practice. So notice that they want perimeter and area. So you got to pick out the right numbers for the right ones. Perimeter, add up all the sides. So that dotted line, it's hard to see. It's easier to see on this one. That is a dotted line. I think the focus is making it a straight line on the camera. There you go. That dotted line is not a side. Triangles only have 3 sides, so you should only be adding 3 numbers, which is 8, 7, and 6. I'm just going to write these here so you can see them. So there's an extra 6 that you're not going to use. So 21 centimeters. The area, this side is slanted, this side is slanted, this side is parallel. They don't draw a little right angle here, but it's kind of implied that that's the height. So that number is the height, this number is the base. So it's the same number, 6 and 6. 1/2 times 6 times 6. So half of 6 is 3. 3 times 6 is 18 centimeters squared. So pause your video and try to work these 2 problems, and then I'm going to show you how to work them. Okay, perimeter is going to be 6 plus 6 plus 3, which is 15. Area is going to be 1/2 times the base times the height. Something I didn't mention earlier. Just because this is the bottom doesn't mean it's always the base. Okay, if I flip this triangle upside down, this would still be the base even though it's at the top. The base, people can get confused. They think of base, they think of bottom. Base doesn't necessarily mean bottom. It does on certain things because that's where you start, is at the bottom. Base means your starting point. So think of it like in military terms, like capture the flag or whatever. Your base is your starting point. So the 3 is my starting point, and then I go off of that, which is the height. So just because this thing is angled to the side, this is still my base. If I kept turning it and I put it over here, this would still be my base because the base makes a right angle with the height. It doesn't matter which way you turn it, it's still the same size triangle, so the area is going to be the same. So this one is not easy to do in your head because you can't take half, 3, or 5 easily. So go ahead and practice punching this on the calculator. You're going to hit fraction key, 1, down, 2, over, times 3, times 5. Well, I know that 3 times 5 is 15, and half of 15 is 7.5. squared. If you got 7.5, that's fine. That's the same thing. Perimeter is going to be, now, even though this dotted line is the outermost line, remember we do not count dotted lines. You're not going to count the 6, you're going to count the 7. So 7 plus 8 plus 6 is 21 again. That's funny. They made the exact same problem with two different triangles here and here. Same sides, same height. So it's kind of redundant. But so the base is 6 because it makes a right angle with the height, which is 6. And it's the exact same thing as we got over here, which was 18 centimeters squared. I'll leave the other 6 for you to do. The answers are on the second sheet. Area and perimeter of parallelograms. So notice they're only giving you 2 sides. Just like with rectangles, they expect you to know, like I said earlier, if this side's 6, this side's going to be 6. So 6 plus 6 plus 7.4. If that side's 7.4, that side's going to be 7.4. Take time to punch that in on your calculator. I think it's 26.8. Let me double check myself real quick. Yeah, it's 26.8 kilometers. So notice I added 6 twice, 7.4 twice, because there's 2 sides to each, and add those 4 sides to get that. Now for area, that was P. Remember, what's not 1/2, that's only with a triangle. It's just base times height. Now, I just said it with a triangle. It's the exact same with a parallelogram. The base is not the bottom. The base is the starting point. And since this 6 kilometers makes a right angle with that side, which isn't marked, also makes it with this side, this is your base, not 7.4, because there's no right angle coming off this. If they did do a right angle, it would look something like this, and then you would use the 7.4, but they don't have that. They've got this, so you have to use the 6 and the 6. 1/2 times 6. Oh, I almost did it after I said not to. I get so used to triangles. Don't make that mistake on the test. So parallelograms are just, I'm going to write it down, base times height. Should have wrote it down first. It always reminds you, write down the formula first. So just base times height is going to be 36 kilometers squared. So parallelograms are base times height, triangles are half base times height. Do one more. So we got 9, so we got 9 and 9, and 5.8 and 5.8. 29.6 feet. You can check me on a calculator. I might be wrong. I think I'm right. For the perimeter, area is just base times height. So again, base is your starting point. It's at the top this time. It could be at the bottom. The 9 is at the top. The 9 is going to be at the bottom. But anyway, they wrote the number at the top. 9 times 4.8. $43.2, I think. Yeah, I think it's 43.2 feet squared. So I'll let you work these out on your own. The answers are on the second sheet, and that is the end of this video.